Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, our mission is really to cut through all the noise out there.
Mm-hmm.
We want to give you a focused, really comprehensive briefing on the key developments hitting India right now.
We've got quite a stack here dated September 24th, 2025.
We do. It covers geopolitics, some major economic policy shocks, and pretty significant domestic shifts, too.
So think of this as what, like a high-speed news bulletin?
Exactly. A global news bulletin, but tailored for you. We're taking these headlines, politics, business, culture, and synthesizing them.
Not just summarizing, though.
No, definitely not. We'll be digging into the critical implications, trying to understand how all these forces are, shaping India's stability at home and its strategic place in the world.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our journey starts with something that really sent shockwaves through global business over the weekend, the H-1B visa news. So, headline number 1. This is causing, I think it's fair to say, genuine alarm. Every major company relying on international talent is feeling this. Absolutely. President Trump's administration, pretty unexpectedly, just announced this enormous fee,
Huge.
$100,000, for each new H-1B visa application.
Wow. That's not just an expense, that fundamentally changes the game for global talent acquisition.
Right. The first reaction was, well, confusion. Then serious anxiety spread pretty quickly.
And it's important to get the specifics right here.
Crucial. The fee only hits new applications. So if you're renewing a visa or you're a returning holder, you're exempt from this massive cost.
But for companies bringing in skilled tech, finance talent year after year,
The financial hit is immediate and staggering. It just completely shifts the cost-benefit calculation of hiring from outside the U.S.
and we saw the financial sector react almost instantly. JPMorgan Chase, for example.
Straight away, CEO Jamie Dimon went public saying the company will engage with policymakers, stakeholders, try to fight this.
But maybe the most telling thing was his advice to employees. That really showed the severity, didn't it?
It really did. Dimon put out urgent guidance. He told H-1B employees who are currently outside the U.S. to get back quickly, before the policy fully locks in.
And for those already in the States.
Avoid non-essential international travel, period. The fear is if you leave, even for a short trip, you might need a new visa to re-enter.
Triggering the $100,000 fee.
Exactly, and throwing your whole employment status into chaos. It really highlights the kind of administrative turmoil this sudden policy drop created.
So why is Dimon, specifically JPMorgan, so invested in this? Why does H-1B matter so much to their business?
Well, it hits right at the core of U.S. competitiveness. Dimon argued pretty explicitly that H-1B visas are essential.
Indispensable, he said.
Right, for global talent mobility, for staying competitive, especially in highly specialized fields like quant, finance, advanced tech. He called the announcement out of the blue.
Leading to urgent weekend crisis calls, I imagine.
You bet. High-stress calls among corporate leaders. And Dimon used this moment strategically to argue for a bigger shift back towards a more, robust, merit-based immigration system.
Harking back to the historical strength immigrants bring.
Precisely. That talented immigrants have always fueled the U.S. economy, driven innovation.
And JPMorgan's usage numbers really back this up. They're a huge sponsor.
One of the top H-1B sponsors in the U.S. In 2024, they filed nearly 2,440 applications. So this policy isn't just about costs for them. It introduces major strategic risks.
What kind of risks are we talking about?
They flagged 3 main ones. First, obviously, labor costs to skyrocket immediately.
Okay.
Second, you're looking at a potential slowdown in innovation if they can't easily bring in the best global minds.
Then the third.
The big one. A potential brain drain. This talent doesn't just vanish, it goes elsewhere.
Where the sources mentioned Canada, the UK.
Exactly. Those countries become instantly more attractive.
Why them specifically? What makes them appealing right now compared to the U.S.?
It's about predictability, really. Canada, for example, has been actively promoting its global skills strategy. They offer much faster processing for high-demand talent.
Weeks, not months or years.
Sometimes, yes. So if the U.S. suddenly slaps on a $100K fee and travel headaches, those clear, fast pathways in Canada or the U.K. look incredibly appealing.
So what are companies like JPMorgan actually doing about it, besides, complaining to Washington?
They're making concrete moves. Costly moves, actually, that suggest a real shift. They're putting significantly more investment into their global capability centers outside the U.S.
Expanding offshore operations.
Right. Becoming much more selective in their U.S. hiring, too, and even renegotiating vendor contracts.
Trying to shift the risk and cost of externally supplied H-1B talent.
Exactly. So this policy, it's not just a tax hike. It seems to be accelerating the movement of skilled work away from U.S. shores.
Which actually leads perfectly into another angle here, highlighted in headline 6. It's about the reaction, or lack thereof, from the Indian American community itself.
Yeah, this is a really interesting pointed critique from Congress MP Shashi Tharoor. He expressed, genuine surprise, even concern,
About what exactly?
about the Indian American diaspora's relatively muted voice on this H-1B fee hike, and also on the increased tariffs, which we'll get into next.
So here you have one of the most successful, influential immigrant groups in the U.S.
Economically, absolutely. Yet on issues that directly hit their families, their home country, apparently silent.
Did he offer any proof for this sort of passivity?
He mentioned talking to a visiting U.S. Congresswoman. She was part of a mostly Democratic delegation.
Okay.
And she confirmed to him she'd received basically no calls, no letters, no real pressure from her Indian American constituents, urging her to push for policies that would benefit India or, help with this H-1B situation.
So Tharoor sees that as a failure of political engagement.
A major one. He's essentially saying, look, you have the political clout, the economic weight. Why aren't you using it?
So his call was for them to speak out more.
Directly. He urged the diaspora to actively engage with policymakers. He believes leveraging their influence is crucial, not just for their immediate interests, but for the bigger picture.
Strengthening the India-U.S. strategic partnership against these kinds of unilateral moves.
Exactly. He sees their political engagement as lagging way behind their economic success story.
Tharoor also linked this to another ongoing issue, those U.S. sanctions impacting India's development of Iran's Chabahar port. Just remind us quickly, why is Chabahar so important for India?
Right. Chabahar is strategically vital. It gives India Sea access to Iran, completely bypassing Pakistan.
Which opens up routes to Afghanistan and Central Asia.
Crucial for trade, regional stability. But U.S. sanctions against Iran have put heavy pressure on India's work there.
Tharoor noted some U.S. lawmakers are starting to question those sanctions, too.
Yeah, he pointed out that even within the U.S. system, there's some recognition that these restrictive policies might be undermining a key partner, India, to achieve another goal, the Iran sanctions. It just shows the H-1B fee isn't happening in isolation. It's part of a broader, more restrictive policy climate coming out of Washington. And speaking of that restrictive environment, let's shift focus to trade, specifically headline 4. This deals directly with U.S. tariffs linked to India's energy choices.
Right. The U.S. has slapped new tariffs on Indian goods. The total levy is now up to a pretty shocking 50% on certain items.
And here's the kicker. That 50% includes an extra 25% penalty.
Specifically because India continues to buy Russian oil despite the conflict in Ukraine.
It's a very clear example of geopolitical pressure being translated directly into economic pain. Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with External Affairs Minister Jaishankar.
And Rubio apparently said he hoped the tariffs could be fixed, signaling maybe some room for negotiation.
He did say that publicly, yeah. Keeping the door open for dialogue, perhaps. But the underlying message from the administration is firm.
The penalty is tied directly to Russian oil imports.
No question. Rubio also defended the move by pointing fingers at some European countries, saying they maintained strong energy ties with Russia while demanded the U.S. be tough.
So pressure on India, but also deflecting some criticism.
Seems like it. The Trump administration's message is basically, these economic measures are leverage.
So they're punishing India, but at the same time trying to say the overall relationship is still critical. That sounds like a tricky diplomatic balance.
It's a definite tightrope walk. And both sides did reiterate the importance of the U.S.-India partnership, despite the tariffs.
Mentioning cooperation in trade, defense, pharma.
Right, and agreeing to keep the dialogue going to manage these rough patches. It's classic diplomacy. Keep talking even when the policies feel hostile.
What about the other geopolitical stuff mentioned? Rubio brought up President Trump's claims about mediating regional conflicts.
Yes, that was the point where India clearly pushed back on the narrative. Well, Rubio cited Trump's claims of mediating disputes. But India was very clear. Its recent ceasefire with Pakistan. That was achieved purely through direct military-to-military contacts between India and Pakistan.
No U.S. mediation involved or needed.
Exactly. It underscores India's insistence on managing its own neighborhood, its own conflicts, without external, especially American, interference or credit-taking. A subtle but important marker of independent foreign policy.
Okay, now let's bring that painful 50% tariff down to a specific product. Headline 8, the double blow hitting basmati rice exports.
Yeah, basmati rice, which is a really premium export for India, is facing a crisis on two fronts.
Two fronts.
First, at home. Punjab has been hit by devastating floods, the worst since 1988, apparently.
Oh, wow.
That's damaged about 10% of the potential basmati crop. A huge blow to farmers in the supply chain right there.
A natural disaster. And then on top of that,
Comes the 50% punitive U.S. tariff,
making Indian basmati suddenly very expensive in the U.S.
essentially uncompetitive. And the U.S., believe it or not, is the world's largest importer of aromatic rice like basmati.
So we're talking about a significant market loss, hundreds of millions.
Potentially. Around a $300 million market segment threatened almost overnight because of this price jump due to the tariff.
And this huge price difference basically hands an advantage to India's main competitor, Pakistan.
A massive, unexpected advantage. Pakistan is also a major basmati producer, right? But they face a much lower U.S. tariff, only 19%.
19 versus 50%.
Huge difference. Now, Pakistan is also suffering badly from floods. They might lose 30–35% of their basmati crop.
So their supply is down too.
Right. But the tariff gap is so enormous, the basic market logic says U.S. buyers will inevitably shift towards the cheaper, less taxed Pakistani rice, even if there's less of it available overall.
So Pakistan could actually gain market share in the U.S. despite their own production problems.
That's the expectation.
Yeah.
It seems like a really tough strategic disadvantage for India, driven purely by U.S. foreign policy on Russia.
So how can Indian exporters even react? Losing access to the world's biggest market for your premium product.
The immediate strategy is, well, frantic market diversification.
Looking elsewhere.
Aggressively.
Yeah.
Exporters are trying hard to strengthen ties in other key markets, the Middle East, Europe, other parts of Asia.
But shifting that kind of volume isn't easy, is it? India exported, what, over 230,000 tons to the U.S. last year?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Moving that volume takes time. You need new logistical chains, new quality checks for different market standards, new pricing strategies. It all costs money, and you can't fully offset the immediate loss from the U.S. market that quickly.
So the ripple effects of this tariff on the Indian agricultural economy, they'll be felt for a while.
Definitely throughout this fiscal year, at least.
Okay.
Okay, let's shift gears now. Moving away from those external pressures of trade and diplomacy, we turn inward to headline 3. This details a domestic policy move in Karnataka that sparked immediate, intense political heat. The caste survey.
Right, the Karnataka caste survey. What's the stated objective here? It's massive, covering nearly 7 crore residents.
The goal, according to the Karnataka State Backward Classes Commission, is to collect really detailed socioeducational data.
Why now?
Chief Minister Siddaramaiah says it's about getting objective, updated information. There was data collected back in 2015, but it was shelved. So this is meant to scientifically measure social and educational backwardness today.
To identify inequalities that need government action.
Exactly.
Okay.
Using a pretty comprehensive 60-question format across the whole state.
But the rollout hit problems right away.
Right.
Technical issues and then a major political controversy.
Absolutely. On the ground, there were initial logistical issues, gaps in training for the survey teams, problems logging into the mobile app, especially in big cities like Bengaluru.
But the real fireworks were political.
Oh yeah, that came from the original survey manual, including 57 specific Christian subcastes.
And that detail immediately drew fire from the opposition, mainly the BJP. What was their argument?
It was a highly charged objection. They claimed including Christian subcastes was a deliberate tactic.
To do what?
To blur the lines between religious and caste identities. They argued this could eventually lead to extending caste-based reservation benefits quotas to Christians.
Which they framed as potentially dividing Hindu society.
Right. Arguing the focus should be on someone's current religious status, not their historical caste affiliation from before conversion. You know how sensitive reservation politics are in India.
Extremely. So how did the commission react to this backlash?
They reacted quickly, making a politically sensitive adjustment. After consulting with the governor, they removed those specific Christian subcaste categories from the manual.
But there's a compromise.
Yes. They added an others classification, so respondents can still report their pre-conversion caste under that heading if they choose.
And the chief minister is sticking to his guns about the survey's purpose.
Siddaramaiah maintains the goal is purely empirical. Get accurate, current data to make sure government benefits actually reach the most disadvantaged groups. He argues you need data to fix inequality.
But the opposition isn't buying the timing or the need for it, especially with a national census planned by the central government.
Exactly. The BJP is questioning why Karnataka needs this expensive state-specific survey right now when the center is planning its own national caste enumeration.
And there are legal challenges, too.
Multiple petitions are before the Karnataka High Court. They challenge the survey's legality, the methodology, and also the timing. It coincides with the major Dasara festival season.
But the government isn't backing down.
No, they've refused to postpone it. They seem determined to push this controversial data collection through, despite the political heat and the court cases. It's inherently political right from the start.
Okay, now from that political controversy to what seems like more of an economic policy success story. Headline 5, covering the big GST reforms that have really boosted the auto sector.
Yeah, this looks like a significant positive. This regulatory change, which kicked in on September 22nd, 2025, really simplified the goods and services tax structure.
Fewer slabs, less complexity.
Much less. It's streamlined mainly into 3 clear slabs, 5%, 18%, and 40%. And importantly, they got rid of those complicated, multi-layered cesses.
And the big win was for the middle-class car and bike buyer, right?
Huge win. For the mass market segment, the GST rate dropped significantly from 28% down to 18%.
Well, what exactly?
On small cars, those meeting specific criteria for engine size and length, and also on motorcycles up to 350 cc.
Making them much more affordable.
Immediately. It was clearly aimed at boosting affordability for middle-class families, first-time buyers, timed perfectly for the festive season buying surge.
Did we see an immediate market reaction? Can you put numbers on it?
Instantaneous. Maruti Suzuki, which is always a key indicator, reported getting 75,000 bookings almost right after the announcement.
Wow, 75,000.
That kind of surge really signals a massive positive shift in how affordable people felt vehicles had become. And similarly, companies focused on entry-level two-wheelers, like Hero MotoCorp, saw demand jump too. It was a well-timed stimulus package, really.
Okay, but what about the other end of the market? Larger vehicles, SUVs, luxury cars, they now face a flat 40% GST. That sounds like they're paying more.
It's actually a bit counterintuitive. Yes, 40% is a higher GST slab than the previous 28%.
Right.
But the crucial change was the removal of all those various separate cesses, additional taxes, that used to be piled on top of the GST for bigger vehicles.
Ah, so the total tax burden might not be higher?
Exactly. Before this reform, a big SUV might have faced 28% GST plus cesses that pushed the total tax well over 43%, sometimes even higher. So, by setting a flat 40% rate and ditching the cess complexity, the government simplified things. And for many premium models, it actually mildly reduced the overall effective tax burden.
Interesting. Simpler for everyone, even if the headline rate looks higher.
Simpler for manufacturers, simpler for consumers. A relief all around.
And we shouldn't forget electric vehicles in all this.
Good point. EVs keep their advantage. They stay at that highly concessional 5% GST rate.
So the overall picture seems to be reforms designed to revive demand across the board.
Definitely. Stimulate manufacturing growth, provide clear tax certainty. It sets the stage for potentially strong performance, although, the final price tag always depends on what manufacturers decide and any state-level taxes.
Okay, let's shift our focus back now to the global stage. Specifically, the 80th UN General Assembly, where President Trump gave a speech that got a lot of attention. That's headline 7.
Yeah, this is very much classic America First rhetoric, but delivered right there at the UN headquarters.
He started with criticism of the UN itself.
Sharp criticism. He really went after it for inefficiency, waste, even corruption. He apparently mocked the building maintenance.
Mentioning a broken escalator and teleprompter.
Exactly, little digs like that. But more seriously, he accused parts of the UN of actually fostering division and even indirectly financing invasions. Strong words.
What were the main policy points he hit? Especially ones impacting allies like India.
3 big themes stood out. First, migration. He called for nations worldwide to shut their borders.
Describing uncontrolled migration as a threat.
A threat to national identities, yeah. And he specifically called what's happening in Europe a failed experiment.
Okay, second theme.
Climate. He doubled down hard on dismissing global warming, called the whole thing a con job.
And attacked renewables.
Specifically went after things like wind power, calling them costly, unreliable, and basically eyesores.
And the third major theme brings us right back to the pressure campaign on India we discussed earlier.
It does. Security and Russia. He used the UN platform to very publicly condemn countries explicitly naming China and India.
For what?
For continuing to buy Russian oil. He directly accused them of funding the war in Ukraine.
So using the global stage to amplify the pressure behind those tariffs.
Absolutely. It really contextualizes that 50% penalty we talked about. It's part of a coordinated public global diplomatic push.
Did he offer anything positive? Any new U.S.-led initiatives?
He did announce a couple of things. A U.S.-led plan for stronger enforcement against biological weapons and another initiative to set up some kind of AI verification system promoting responsible tech development.
But the overall message was,
America defending sovereignty. He boasted about ending 7 wars during his presidency, really reinforcing that nationalist, anti-globalist stance that defines his administration. Now, staying in that sphere of finance and global interaction, let's look at headline 10. This is about a potential, quite significant shift in India's banking sector, possibly relaxing foreign investment caps in public sector undertaking banks, or PSU banks.
okay, let's define terms first. PSU banks, these are the government majority-owned banks, right?
Exactly. The government holds over 51%. They're really central to India's financial system.
And the foreign investment currently has a cap.
Yes, there's a 20% cap on total ownership by foreign portfolio investors, or FPIs. These are your big institutional investors from abroad, pension funds, mutual funds, hedge funds. That 20% limit dates back to the Banking Regulation Act of 1969, the era of bank nationalization.
And the proposal now is to raise that 20% limit. Why?
The main reason seems to be attracting more foreign investment. More PI money flowing in could boost the stock prices of these PSU banks, improve their valuation, maybe lift their profile in global financial indexes.
But the government insists they'll keep control.
Absolutely. They're clear that even if the ownership cap is raised, the government will maintain its majority stake over 51%. They're looking for passive investment, not a foreign takeover.
But ownership is one thing. The really sensitive part is often control, specifically voting rights.
That's the crucial sticking point. Even if FPIs can own more stock collectively, there's another major restriction in Indian law.
Which is?
No single entity, foreign or domestic, can hold more than 26% of the voting rights in any Indian bank.
So even if a big foreign bank wanted to buy a large stake, their actual influence on the board is limited.
Exactly. That 26% voting rights cap can be a deterrent for serious strategic foreign investors who want more say.
Is that cap being looked at too?
It is. The Reserve Bank of India, the RDI, is actively reviewing all these ownership and voting rights rules.
What kind of change is being considered for voting rights?
One possibility being discussed is raising the voting rights cap specifically for foreign banks from the current 15% up to 26%.
Aligning them with Indian private promoters?
Right. That could make strategic investments more attractive. But naturally, any move that significantly increases foreign influence or voting power in PSU banks
Sparks political debate about sovereignty and control.
instantly. So relaxing these rules requires formal changes to banking laws, and you can bet it will be fiercely debated.
Okay, finally in this segment, headline 9. This is about a very tangible expansion of India's capabilities. Defense manufacturing actually going global.
Yes, this is genuinely historic, a major milestone for India's defense industry. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh inaugurated India's first overseas defense manufacturing plant
And it's in Africa.
in Bereket, near Casablanca, Morocco. It's a venture by Tata Advanced Systems Limited, TASL,
In partnership with Morocco.
with Morocco's Royal Armed Forces, yes. It's a concrete example of that make-for-the-world vision India has been promoting.
What exactly will they be making in Morocco?
They'll be assembling the WAP 8x8. That's the Wheeled Armored Platform and Amphibious Infantry Combat Vehicle,
Developed in India?
co-developed by TASL and India's own Defense Research and Development Organization, the DRDO. So it shows a successful public-private partnership translating into export capability.
What's the scale of this plan?
It's significant. Expected to produce about 100 of these combat vehicles annually, and it should employ around 350 local personnel.
Why Morocco? What makes it the strategic location for this first overseas plan?
Morocco is seen as highly strategic. It really signals India is serious about boosting defense exports into the growing African market.
Gateway to Africa.
Exactly. Rajnath Singh held bilateral meetings while he was there, exploring deeper cooperation. And MOU is likely to formalize this long-term partnership. Morocco is seen as a stable, key entry point into the wider African continent and maybe even into some European markets down the line.
So it really helps position India differently on the world stage.
Absolutely. It's a step up from primarily being a defense importer to becoming a serious, capable, global defense exporter.
All right, let's transition now to two quite different stories, but ones that really capture the national mood in different ways. First up, the sporting drama in the Asia Cup 2025. That's headline 2.
Okay, the Asia Cup. Things are heating up in the Super 4 stage, right? Only a few matches left.
Getting very intense. The most crucial recent result was Pakistan pulling off a vital win against Sri Lanka in Abu Dhabi.
How did that match go?
It was actually pretty tense. Sri Lanka only set a target of 1338. Pakistan looks shaky at 805 in the chase.
But they got there.
Thanks to a really crucial unbroken partnership of 58 runs between Mohammad Awaz and Hussein Talat, they saw Pakistan home with 5 wickets in hand. A massive win for their chances.
So how does that win affect the standings and the race for the final?
Right now, India is sitting on top of the Super 4 table. They've got a strong net run rate, too, plus .689.
Pakistan and Bangladesh are tied behind India on 2 points each. Pakistan has a slight edge on net run rate, plus .226 over Bangladesh, plus .121.
And Sri Lanka.
Winless. They're pretty much out of contention.
So the qualification scenarios are getting clearer.
It's nicely poised. If India beats Bangladesh in their next game, India locks up 1 spot in the final.
And then Pakistan versus Bangladesh
A
becomes...
straight shootout. A virtual semifinal for the other spot. High stakes.
But the real potential drama comes if Bangladesh manages to beat India.
Exactly. If Bangladesh pulls off an upset against India, then technically all 4 teams could still be in the running based on net run rate calculations.
Keeping alive the possibility of...
The big one, an India versus Pakistan final. That possibility, hugely exciting for fans and broadcasters, would stay alive until the very last Super 4 match. So yeah, the next few days of cricket are going to be absolutely gripping.
Okay, and finally today, we turn to much sadder news. Headline 11 reports the passing of the musician Zubeen Garg.
Yes, this news has triggered just immense outpouring of grief, especially in Assam, where Zubeen Garg was, well, he had a real cult-like following.
How did he pass away? He was quite young, only 52.
Tragically young. He drowned in Singapore on September 19th. Reports say he was swimming without a life jacket. Despite rescue efforts and being taken to the ICU, he couldn't be revived.
And the public reaction, particularly in Assam, indicates just how huge his influence was.
Monumental. Assam's chief minister, Himanta Biswa Sarma, publicly spoke about the unique power of Garg's voice, saying his death leaves a permanent void in the region's culture.
Tens of thousands attended his funeral.
Yes. Massive crowds gathered. He was given full state honors, including a rare 21-gun salute.
And the state declared official mourning.
An extraordinary 4 days of mourning. Non-emergency services were suspended, businesses closed. That level of response really shows the depth of the public connection people felt with him.
There were also some legal questions raised initially about negligence.
That's right. FIRs, police complaints, were filed against his manager and the organizer of a festival he was attending, relating to alleged negligence around the swimming incident.
But his family requested those be withdrawn.
His wife did, yes. Though the family did consent to a second post-mortem examination, just to be absolutely clear about the circumstances surrounding his drowning.
What really defined his legacy, he wasn't a typical Bollywood star.
No, he very consciously avoided Bollywood for the most part. He chose to focus his immense talent on Assamese music and songs in other regional dialects.
Which made him a champion of local culture.
Absolutely. That cemented his status. He was also an acclaimed actor, and culturally he was quite an iconoclast.
Whoa.
He openly identified as an atheist, which is still quite rare and bold in public life. And he was a very vocal critic of the Hindu caste system.
So his outspokenness was part of his appeal.
It seems so. It likely amplified the sense of loss for his many devoted followers. And now it's really his fans who are safeguarding his legacy.
Compiling archives.
Incredible efforts. They've reportedly compiled over 33,000 of his cassettes and CDs and built a digital archive containing something like 35,000 of his songs. It's a huge, very personal cultural inheritance he's left behind. #TagZevan. Outro.
And that brings us to the end of, well, a really packed and complex deep dive into India's critical headlines today. We've covered a lot of ground.
We really have.
From that $100,000 H-1B visa fee shock that's forcing companies like JPMorgan to rethink global talent.
Right. To the severe geopolitical pressure we see in those 50% U.S. tariffs on products like basmati rice.
And then those significant domestic policy shifts, the really controversial Karnataka caste survey, but also the economic boost from the GST auto reforms.
And I think what ties a lot of these diverse threads together is this ongoing, very difficult balancing act for India.
Balancing external pressures with internal needs.
It's exactly. Juggling high-stakes external demands, whether they come from the UN General Assembly stage, U.S. Treasury enforcing tariffs, or even pursuing defense deals in Morocco, with all the internal balancing required for domestic stability, financial regulation, social justice. India seems to be juggling competing priorities on almost every front right now, which, raises an important question. We've talked about these significant economic and diplomatic challenges, the tariffs, the H-1B fees, Shashi Tharoor's point about the diaspora's political silence.
Mm-hmm.
So how might the domestic controversies we discussed, particularly the political heat around the Karnataka caste survey, or that ongoing debate about foreign influence in PSU banks, how might these internal issues either further complicate or maybe somehow empower India's efforts to project stability and strength internationally?
So what does this all mean? We leave you with that thought for your own deep dive.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to unpacking the world with you again soon on The Deep Dive.